The St. Louis Cardinals have some depth in a couple of different areas, but one spot in particular is reportedly getting some trade attention from teams around the league.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafron, a former national radio sports anchor, born and raised in St. Louis, a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Thank you to our everydayers for being here with us throughout the season and now the off season. We are not going anywhere. Other people are going to go away. We are right here with you. We are Locked On Cardinals. And for those of you who are new to the show, welcome in. We hope you enjoy the content. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. On today's episode, we've got some shocking news concerning former Cardinal manager Mike Shildt. The ALCS Game 1 was just last night, so that's underway. NLCS will get started on Monday. What former Cardinals are still around to keep an eye on if that's something that interests you. But we're going to start with one of the spots that the Cardinals actually have some positive things going on at, and that's the catcher position. Now, I don't mean to say that as if like the Cardinals aren't doing good things with other positions and other areas of the organization's renovation or whatever you want to call it. You've clearly got some infield depth with names like, Brendan Donovan and JJ Weatherholt, Mason Wynn, Nolan Gorman, Thomas Ajayci, Jose Fermin, Cesar Prieto. These are all guys that we saw at the major league level this year. Nolan Arenado is still on this team, although we do anticipate a move this offseason where he will get traded to a contender someplace that, he feels comfortable and whatnot. Below that group of players, though, you've also got a lot of youngsters like Jesus Baez, which you got in that Ryan Helsley deal, Yaro Padilla, Daniel Ortiz, who's been on this show. So you love to see that they've got some depth going on there. The outfield, you got Victor Scott, you got Alec Burleson, Jordan Walker, Lars Nootbaar, Nathan Church, Matt Koperniak, Michael Ciani. Kind of lean. Not a whole lot there as far as like star power. It's why we really need Jordan Walker to, like the Army says, be all he can be. That's what we're really hoping for. He's supposed to be that guy. He's supposed to be that star and that thumper in the outfield. Hopefully that comes to fruition this offseason and into 2026. After that, you've got some names like this year's second-round pick, Ryan Mitchell, that people are high on. Former 2021 second-round pick, Joshua Baez, had a monster season with Peoria and then Springfield. Former first-round pick Chase Davis, still trying to find the power, which was his big thing when they drafted him. He was supposed to be this slugger, this power hitter, has this incredible swing, very cargo type of swing when he used to play with the Rockies. Carlos Gonzalez, for those of you who don't know. But, he's in the mix. Still isn't quite to where you're hoping he would be at this point in his career. But that grouping doesn't feel quite as strong as some of the guys in the infield. Obviously, JJ Weatherholt stands out there. Starting pitcher and reliever, we know that that's an area that they're always going to be working on and trying to replenish. First-round pick, Liam Doyle leads the way. Quinn Matthews, Tekoa Roby, Tink Kens, Cooper Jerpy, Ishan Henderson, who was excellent this year at Springfield. Chinwei Lin, who's in the Arizona Fall League right now. Nate Dome, who they got in the Helsley deal. Bryson Motts, and a whole bunch of others. But they're certainly trying to always add. You can never have enough pitching, right? So you're always going to want to add to those names. And you've got a lot of those guys who are hurt right now. Roby, Hentz, Jerpy, Sim Robertson, another name. He's hurt. So, they need more depth there. But the one area where things look pretty good, stacked up kind of nicely at this moment, is the catcher position, where the Cardinals had Ivan Herrera, Pedro Pajes, Joel Pozo. Those were the guys for most of this past season. But beneath them, they boast three catchers who are in their top 10 ranking according to MLB Pipeline. We got to see number 6 prospect Jimmy Crooks come up at the end of last season. He got off to a great start, hitting that home run against the Reds to record his first major league hit. But after that, it was a struggle. He never hit another home run, never got another RBI in 45 plate appearances and hit just 133 at the major league level. But he was the AA Texas League MVP and the Cardinals minor league player of the year in 2024. Last year, in his first year at AAA Memphis, he put up solid numbers once again. Batted .274, 14 home runs, 79 RBIs in 98 games. So we know the talent is there. His batting average, the OBP, the slugging OPI, it all dipped. But that's to be expected when you make the jump from AA to AAA. Still very good numbers. And, the major league numbers were not good, but first shot at the big leagues, and most rookies do struggle their first go around. We saw Mason Wynn have similar issues when he came up, and then obviously things have been better since that first go round when he came up in a September call-ups. The next two guys are in the top 10 as far as prospects for the Cardinals as well. Crooks was number 6. You've got number 3 prospect, Reynel Rodriguez, and then number 4 prospect, Leonardo Bernal. Rodriguez is just 18 years old. In his first full pro season, he played at 3 levels for the Cardinals. Went from rookie league to A-ball up to high A Peoria. And along the way, he hit a combined .276 with 20 home runs and 63 RBIs. Scouting says his hitting is ahead of the catching abilities. Rodriguez will be a work in progress, they say. Behind the plate, as his glove work catches up to the bat, he threw out 32.4% of attempted base stealers in 2024, but evaluators questioned how his arm strength will play at higher levels. But at 18 years old, he enters the 25 season as the same age as an American League high school senior. And some believe if he showed this skill set in a prep environment, he'd be a first-round talent at a premium position. Rodriguez is also currently ranked 6th overall among catching prospects in all of baseball. And 4 of the 5 guys who are ahead of him on those rankings already made it to the big leagues this past season. So that tells you how highly they think of Reynel Rodriguez as far as MLB pipeline goes. Then at number 4, you've got Leonardo Bernal, who was a switch-hitting 21-year-old catcher who played the entire 25 season at AA Springfield, hitting .247 with 13 home runs, 70 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, although, looking at the scouting grades, speed not exactly what he's known for. The defense, which is, something, you can't look at stats and go, oh, he's really good. Defensively, his scouting report says he's an efficient and effective thrower on stolen base attempts. His 35.2% caught stealing rate was best among high A qualifiers last season. It's risen into the 40s with Springfield this season. Bernal will be Rule 5 eligible next offseason and should have a good 40-man case as a well-rounded backstop. Now, with the depth at this position, in the minors, plus you've got, as I mentioned, Ivan Herrera, Pedro Pages. We could throw in Joel Pozo as well. He is not a free agent. I looked up as much as I could as what they're trying to do, what they're going to do with them. There's no definitive answer on that, but the odds are that they would probably try to re-sign him to some sort of deal. And, Pozo likely will be in the mix. Okay. So, but teams have reportedly already checked in with the Cardinals on who is available. So Derek Gold from the Post-Dispatch had some thoughts on this situation for the Cardinals. I'm going to tell you what he had to say about it in one of his recent chats. Coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. All you do is you got to pick a bet. You put down the $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Personally, I love how FanDuel gives me so many different ways to enjoy the app and to place bets. I build parlays. I've tried player props, and I've even followed the live lines during games, which, being a fantasy football guy, that's something that you always are intrigued by as well. You got 2 Monday Night Football games tonight with the Bills against the Falcons, then the Bears at Commanders. MVP Josh Allen against arguably the best all-around running back in football in Bijan Robinson for the Falcons. You've got the quarterback matchup here with former number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams squaring off against the number 2 pick in that same draft of 2024 and Jaden Daniels. I wonder if the Bears wish they had Daniels instead, but Caleb Williams has been a lot better this year. So that should be a fun game to watch. Whether you're a casual fan or you just love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you enjoy daily Cardinals content, you can follow the podcast on X at @LO_Cardinals. We're also on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Again, we're going to be here the entire offseason, so stay with us because it should be an interesting one for the St. Louis Cardinals, who continue to make different trades and signings and stuff as they try to get this thing back on the tracks. Trading away from your depth to acquire other needs is it's a tale as old as time, right? The Cardinals have attempted to do this over the past decade with their outfielders, right? How many times have we heard the term log jam in the outfield? It's too many. We got so many. They're so good. There's so many of them. We need to trade a couple of them away. That way we can get other things in return, and we'll be fine because we have so many of them. And just about every time they've made a deal, as far as the outfield, it has backfired, right? Some of them had the names that have gotten moved or have gotten away: Randy Arozarena, Adolis Garcia, Tommy Edman, Lane Thomas. They had to trade away Harrison Bader. Eventually, they moved on from Tyler O'Neill. Meanwhile, guys like Dylan Carlson got to stick around, and he didn't pan out. Lars Nootbaar, at least in my eyes, has not lived up to what I thought he was going to be. He's been a disappointment. Jordan Walker certainly has been a disappointment and has struggled to live up to his expectations as a first-round pick. So it just seems like they move the wrong guy each time. And John Mozeliak even brought that up in a recent interview. He was on the that morning show where they were talking about the Randy Arozarena thing, and he's like, we had this, and this, and we thought we could trade one of those away and get a starting pitcher. We did it. Apparently, we traded away the wrong guy because Arozarena obviously has gone on to become a pretty darn good player. So when you talk about trading away from your depth at catcher, if you're going to do this, there's always going to be risk involved. There's risk involved in every trade. You hope they don't make the mistakes that they made with the outfield, and they're able to pick the right guy to move that will benefit the Cardinals in the long run. Derek Gould from the Post-Dispatch, who covers the Cardinals, recently had this to say about the catching situation in one of his recent chats. Says that that is an area of depth for the Cardinals at the moment that other teams have asked about. There's always a call on available catchers each spring, and the Cardinals have 2 or 3 that other teams are wondering what they'll do as they all arrive on the roster. Remember, the Cardinals must protect Bernal this winter from the Rule 5 draft, and they will. That puts as many as 5 catchers, with Crooks, Herrera, Pages, Pozo, and Bernal on the 40-player roster. It's likely they look to remove Pozo and re-sign him to a deal off the roster, and then hang with 4 catchers on the 40 to prepare for what Herrera can show at the position with arm health and a winter of work. If I'm a team and I'm calling the Cardinals about a catcher, and if my idea is to get somebody that is not a backup and is going to be a starter, the guy I'm calling about is Ivan Herrera. We know that the bat can play at the major league level, but this past year, he was unable to stay healthy. Eventually, they removed him from catching duties altogether so that they could keep his bat in the lineup. They wanted to save his legs. And I have repeatedly said, after seeing what Ivan Herrera has done behind the plate in the last couple seasons, and I know it's briefly, but I think Ivan Herrera should be moved to first base the way Contreras was. But Contreras is still here. That's one of the problems with no trade clauses, is that if you want to open up a position for somebody, you have to ask permission from the veteran to see if he can be moved. Contreras is still here. Doesn't appear that he wants to leave, although we've heard that he'll look at things if Chaim Bloom finds something that he thinks is good for both sides. You've also got Alec Burleson, who is, try as he might as an outfielder, it's not about effort. It's just about overall athletic skill out there. He doesn't really possess that and would be a much better first baseman and has played first base this year. They gave Herrera some time in the outfield as well this year. What do you have, like 4 games where he played out in left field? He does run well for a catcher when he's healthy. So perhaps that's a possibility. Maybe he becomes a corner outfield guy, and that's where he ends up staying. I don't know. If you think about catchers that have moved to the outfield, the first name that came to mind was Bryce Harper, where Bryce Harper was a catcher when he got drafted #1 overall, and they eventually moved him to the outfield, and then he had the elbow issue and became a first baseman. So I don't know. They're gonna give Herrera a shot. They're certainly gonna give him a shot to become a catcher again. I just don't think it's gonna work. I just don't think he's good enough behind there. As far as trading him, Herrera would give you the most in return for sure. But no way am I trading Ivan Herrera. As much as we like Pages and Pozo, great guys, great teammates. Pozo was a really nice story. Had some very nice pinch hits. But neither of them possess anything that I would call special that would warrant a need to keep them around. We know that the pitchers like throwing to Pages. Great. That's great. He's a backup. I would love for Herrera to work out as a catcher. I really would. I think that would be great. And he would become your #1 in 2026 and for years to come. Perhaps maybe sometime with, I don't know, what's that guy? Yadier Molina. You heard of that guy? Maybe that would help Ivan Herrera out a little bit. I mean, who better to learn from than the GOAT, right? So maybe if Yadi gets on board and it has the time and becomes a full-time coach, maybe that's something that helps Ivan out. But if it doesn't, and Ivan Herrera does not work out as a catcher and he continues to struggle behind the plate, I still don't want to trade him. Hell no. Just have to find another place for him to play, whether it's first or outfield or just DH if need be. Removing his bat from this lineup, I think, would be catastrophic in my mind. He is a middle-of-the-order bat where guys like Gorman and Walker have failed to become that person. Now, if you had both of those guys becoming who we thought they were going to be, maybe you could move on from somebody like him, but not right now. No. I'm not doing that at all. So I don't see how they can afford to even discuss moving somebody like Ivan Herrera. Personally, like I said, I'd rather see Herrera playing another position and then go into this upcoming season with Crooks and Pages as your top backstops. I want Crooks as the #1 because I want his offense. And you know what else is cool is that, Crooks is the lefty, Pages is the righty. So when you got to give a day off, you're facing a lefty. You've got that. You got a nice little mix there. And then I'd have Bernal at Memphis to start the year and then Rodriguez at Springfield for a full season. That's how I'd do it. But I understand if someone comes calling and makes a solid offer for Pages or an outrageous offer for one of the young guys, I don't know how you don't listen. I think the Cardinals have to listen to anybody who's calling at this point to just, hey, sure. Yeah, what do you got? And if something blows you away, then you can pull the trigger on something. But I can't imagine them moving on from Ivan Herrera or either of the young guys in Rodriguez or Bernal. It would have to be Crooks or Pages, in my opinion. Those would be the only two that you'd move on from. And I don't think you want to move on from Crooks by any means. So it seems like Pages is the guy that if someone's going to get traded this offseason, as far as from the catching depth, he would be the guy that you'd be the most comfortable with moving on from. The Cardinals had Carson Kelly not that long ago because Yadi was in place. Carson Kelly was a very good catcher coming up through the system, flipped him in the Paul Goldschmidt deal, and that worked out pretty well for the Cardinals. So maybe something like that where it's a group of guys to go along with Pages to make a trade to go get somebody. Maybe that's what ends up working out. I'm a big believer in Ivan Herrera's bat. So much that I bought a pair of his pants at an auction. It's something that I was like, yes, he's the young guy that I want to keep around. So now you can't trade him for sure because I own his pants. Does that sound creepy? Anyway, but I don't think you can move him just because this is a team that, the offense is starved for production. You need big bats, and you don't have many of them right now. I don't know how you can afford to move him at this point. But let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below on YouTube or below as far as or on X at @LO_Cardinals. If you had to make a deal, who are you moving, knowing that, the better the player, the better the return? Would you move one of the young guys like Bernal or Rodriguez at this point because you don't really know what their future is going to be, and maybe stock is so high that you could get something massive in return? Maybe that's something you look into. Let me know your thoughts down below and on X. Up next, some shocking news today on former Cardinal manager Mike Shildt. Everybody's like, what? So we'll get to that and take a look at the MLB playoffs coming up on Locked On Cardinals. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, what happens? You can end up leaving money on the table. And we don't want money on the table. We want money in our pockets, in our accounts all the time. The more, the merrier, right? And that's why things like Monarch Money exist. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that'll bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you've put off organizing your finances because life got too busy, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes. You can see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can maximize your investments, increase your savings rate, easily review your finances with your partner or your financial advisor, giving you a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until the World Series champion is crowned. You'll get local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcast. Myself and John Frisch from Locked On Angels will be hosting tonight. Me and Brian from Locked On Yankees got to do it last night. I was on with Steve from the Locked On Red Sox postcast on Friday night. So I've been on MLB Game Night a lot recently, so hopefully you're not worn out with me. But it's a good time getting to talk about what's going on in the world of baseball. Speaking of which, some breaking news this afternoon. Former Cardinal manager Mike Shildt has stepped down as the manager of the San Diego Padres and is retiring. He only managed the club for 2 years, still had 2 years remaining on his deal, but in a statement said that the grind of the baseball season has taken a severe toll on me mentally, physically, and emotionally. While it has always been about serving others, it's time I take care of myself and exit on my own terms. Like, nobody saw this one coming. Very eerily similar to his departure from the Cardinals just a few years ago. Different circumstances. Obviously, Shilt's stepping away on his own here, and it's his decision. This wasn't the Padres pushing him out by any means, but still, what? Where did this come from? 57 years old, so he's not like some old man. We're not talking Bruce Bochy. We're not talking guys in their 70s or anything. So still relatively young at 57. Led the Padres to a 183 and 141 record since the start of 2024. The club made the postseason in both of those years, reached the NLDS in 24, wildcard series this year, but were bounced unceremoniously by the Chicago Cubs. He is the first Padres manager to oversee back-to-back 90-win season. And, this comes 4 years after getting fired by the Cardinals following a 90-win season. His second as a manager of the club that sent shockwaves through the Cardinal fan base, if you remember, who still to this day, like, go look at the comments section. Anytime I do anything about Ollie, bring Shildt back. Shildt shouldn't have been, like, people are still pissed off about that whole situation. They still don't understand why he was canned when all he did was win. The philosophical differences explanation, it just never sat well with any of us, with the fans. Some media people understood it better than, but they never explained it. And that's one thing that I hope Chaim Bloom is better at so far. He has been better at explaining situations and why the Cardinals are doing certain things or why they wouldn't do certain things. He's been more transparent, something that John Mozeliak was not interested in doing. And fans are still worked up about it. Even though the team found success that following season after firing Mike Shildt, they hired Ollie, and they go to the playoffs, although they get upset by the Philadelphia Phillies. But ever since that year, the organization and this team they've limped on ever since. As manager of the Cardinals, Shildt was great. He went 41-28. Remember in 2018, he took over for Mike Matheny. I was at Mike Matheny's last game, and I remember going out with my boys that night, and I was like, dude, something's going to have to change. Even though the Cardinals were like one game over 500, it was just like, this team should be better. Everything looks messed up. It looks broken. They let Shildt take over. They fire Matheny. Shildt takes over. 41-28. They don't make the playoffs, but he gives us hope that things are going to be better in 2019, and they were. He wins NL Manager of the Year that year. The team goes 91-71. They win the Central, but lose in the NLDS to the eventual world champion Washington Nationals. Was that the NLDS or the NLCS? I'm trying to remember. But either way, they lost. It wasn't even that close. COVID comes in 2020. Once again, they made the playoffs, but they lost in the NL Wildcard Series to the Padres in 3 games. Then in 2021, they go 90-72. They have that amazing 17-game winning streak, which got them into the playoffs, but they lose in the 1-game wildcard game to the defending champion Dodgers. And then 8 days later, Mike Shildt gets fired. And we're all like, what the? He finishes 252 and 199 with the Cardinals, made the playoffs all 3 years that he was there as the manager to begin the season. And many fans still point to this as the moment that the Cardinals slide into mediocrity began, when they fired Mike Shildt, who was up for manager of the year again. Like, secretly, I was like, wouldn't that be hilarious if he won, but the Cardinals had fired him already? Because the awards hadn't been announced. They don't get announced till November, but he was announced as a finalist. And you're like, oh my gosh, did they just fire the manager of the year? Wouldn't that be nuts? But he'd already won it before. So it was never on the field stuff. It wasn't about winning. It was about the vision of what the Cardinals were going to be moving forward that front office and Shildt didn't agree on. And, Shildt has said before, he's like, sure, there were disagreements, and I never thought I was going to get fired for it, but it happened. He ends up, taking a few years off, and then he comes to the Padres, 183, 141. The guy won. He was a good manager. He won in both spots, and at both spots, the inning came far earlier than anyone expected. It now adds another managerial opening to a group that already includes the Angels, the Rockies, the Braves, the Orioles, Twins, Giants, Nationals. Albert Pujols' name obviously continues to be linked to the Angels opening. Skip Schumacher already accepted the Rangers job. We know Yadier Molina wants a managerial job, but has been linked to joining Ollie's staff for the upcoming season. So the musical chairs, as far as managerial positions go, I'm sure it'll continue after the World Series is completed. So stay tuned. We'll see what ends up who ends up landing where. Playoff wise, the Mariners shocked the Blue Jays in Game 1. On Sunday night, they win that one 3-1, despite a 15-inning marathon on Friday night to eliminate Detroit. The Blue Jays decide that they're going to swing at everything. They just were like, we're going to be aggressive. And they did not try to work Bryce Miller, who was a starter for the Mariners. And outside of that first pitch of the game by Miller, where George Springer hits the leadoff home run in the bottom of the first, the Blue Jays get one hit the rest of the game. Their advice, their game plan to attack Seattle, it did not work whatsoever, and they never altered from it. So we'll see what they do in Game 2 tonight in Toronto, where that offense will try to get back on track, and they're turning the ball over to Trey Savage, the rookie who pitched so well against the Yankees. Game 1 of the NLCS is on Monday night as well in Milwaukee, as the Brewers host the defending champion Dodgers. Brewers win 6-0 against them during the regular season, so it's not like the Dodgers should come in and just dominate this series by any means, although the Dodgers already eliminating the Reds pretty easily, took care of the Phillies in 4 games. Like, they're feeling pretty confident, and the Brewers had a tougher time with the Cubs than we thought they would. So we'll see how that goes down. I'm rooting for the Brewers. My picks before the playoffs, though, were the Mariners and the Dodgers to be in the World Series. If I had to choose a team to win it, I'd roll with the star power in LA and that the elite starting pitching staff that they possess. They're going to have Blake Snell on the mound tonight, where the Brewers have, as far as starters go, they got Peralta is very good, but then it's Quinn Priester and former Cardinal Jose Quintana. So that's all they got. They don't have any other starters. And then like the Dodgers can roll out, Snell, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glass now. They're putting Clayton Kershaw on the roster as well. So a number of different options to be a starter. Some other former Cardinals that are still in this thing, Arozarena with Seattle, Edman with the Dodgers, Eric Fetty with the Brewers, although he's not on the NLCS roster. He is still with the team, though. So it wasn't my eyes deceiving me because I could have sworn. I was like, is that Eric Fetty in the dugout? He's with them. He's there. He's not on the roster, though. So you will not see him in this particular series. So, anyhow, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on X at @LO_Cardinals and JD Sports Radio, TikTok and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Let me know what you think is going to happen for the rest of these playoffs now that we're down to the Final Four. Who's going to move on? Who's going to be in the World Series this year? Hit me up in the comments section. Make sure you guys like and subscribe on YouTube. Honestly, it does wonders for the channel when you like and subscribe. In a lot of places, subscriptions are not even nearly as close to the views that these videos get. So if you haven't subscribed, do me a solid and go ahead, hit like, hit subscribe, and be a part of this thing we call Locked On Cardinals. You're the best fans in baseball for a reason, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.